Happy New Year, everyone. Here's to wishing all of you a bountiful year full of happiness and success. And I hope after watching this video, you can want more than ever because you have a much better understanding of all the new launches lined up in 2026, allowing you to decide which are the ones to focus on and which are those to avoid. This is especially important in a year where new private home prices is set to hit record highs due to a limited supply. I'll be reviewing almost every single project. So if you're a busy person and you don't want to spend too much time watching repetitive analysis, this is probably the only new launch review video that you need to watch in 2026. Alright, let's go. First up, I've compiled all the launches in chronological order according to when they might be launching, followed by basic information on who the developer is, the number of units in the development, as well as their land bid cost and estimated launch price so that at one glance you already know what to expect. I've also color-coded the launches by the regions which they are located in. This is for the first half and this is for the second half of 2026. And it's very obvious that most of the launches this year will be in the OCR where we have experienced undersupply for the last few years. To help you visualize better, I've also illustrated the lower and upper bounds of the expected launch price in the respective regions. For example, you can clearly see that Tengah Garden will be at the lowest end of the OCR spectrum at 2100 PSF, while Bayshore and Chuan Grove will be at the highest end at 2800 PSF. Interestingly, we will also see RCR prices overlapping with OCR prices, which is a great window of opportunity I will touch on later. At the highest end of the spectrum, we will find Newport Residences at the 3300 PSF price range. Before we go on further, if you have found the content useful so far, I would really appreciate if you can help us by clicking on the like button. With so many launches in the pipeline, it can get quite confusing, especially when there are agents telling you that every new launch sure can make money one. This is definitely not true, as you can see from my subsequent assessment of the various projects. For those of you who have been watching my videos for some time, you will know that I use my IPA framework to guide my clients in evaluating a development holistically based on these 5 factors. Number 1, location and amenities. Number 2, facilities and quality. Number 3, demand versus supply in the area. Number 4, pricing versus surrounding developments, and finally, layout. For the purpose of this video, because we are reviewing a total of 16 launches, I'll be doing a more high-level kind of review based on my understanding of the various attributes given my 8 years of experience in this industry, as well as my gut feel for the project, which some of you might say is biasness. I don't care, my video, my rules. I'll also be omitting the layout factors since we don't have most of the floor plans yet. So the ranking might still change depending on the actual launch price and layouts of the development. If you want a more detailed analysis of the various projects, do remember to subscribe to my channel so that you'll be notified whenever a new video is released. Alright, coming to the very first launch of 2026 will be Costal Cabana EC, located at Jalan Loyang Besar right next to Downtown East in Pasir Ris. It will be developed by 𝗃𝗵𝗃𝗃 Realty with 748 units. The expected price will be about 1750 PSF on average. Coming to the first factor on location and amenities, what I like is that you have a decent selection of retail and F&B options at Downtown East itself. For nature and beach lovers, Pasir Ris Park is also a short walk away. However, it is still quite a distance to Pasir Ris MRT for commuting to work. With regard to facilities and quality, 𝗃𝗵𝗃 is a decent developer and this is a good sized development with full condo facilities. However, only certain stacks get to enjoy the sea view while the rest of the blocks are quite close together. Coming to demand versus supply, it will be the first EC launch in Pasir Ris in over 10 years, so I'm sure the demand will be pretty strong, but there are no reputable primary schools in the area to future-proof your exit strategy. Lastly, coming to pricing, as an EC, Costal Cabana will be selling at a discount versus Pasir Ris 8, we just obtained TOP not too long ago, but it is actually still quite pricey versus the surrounding resale developments. On balance, I'm going to give it a grading of B4. By the way, I'll be grading according to our secondary school system from A1 to D7. I left out E8 and F9 because I don't want to remind us of our failures in case you PTSD. So this is where Costal Cabana currently stands. Next, coming to Narra Residences, it is located along Dairy Farm Walk in the Hillview region. Jointly developed by Centrale Realty and Apex Asia, it consists of 540 residential units. The expected price will be in the range of 2,250 PSF. For the first factor on location and amenities, I like that the development is right next to Dairy Farm Mall, so residents get to enjoy the amenities such as a supermarket and cafes within close proximity. However, it is quite far from 𝗃𝗵𝗶𝗀𝗃 MRT, so the last mile travelling can be quite a hassle. Coming to facilities and quality, Narra Residences will have full condo facilities, but it will be developed by small developers, and I've seen the site plan and there's nothing unique about it. With regard to demand versus supply, your future buyers might come from HDB upgraders from all the Tengah BTOs, but the demand in this area is traditionally quite muted. Finally, coming to pricing, the good thing is Narra Residences will have a small price gap versus other recent launches like the Botany and 𝗃𝗵𝗄𝗏, which are not GFA harmonized, but it is also not too far off from the Sense pricing, which arguably is in a better location, so I'll rather go for the Sense. Given the above, unfortunately, I'm only going to give it a grading of C5. Moving on to Newport Residences, it is the redevelopment of the former Fuji Xerox building along Anson Road by CDL. Comes with 246 units at an expected average price of 3,300 PSF. On location and amenities, I like that it's within walking distance to both Prince Edward and Tanjong Pagar MRT, so connectivity to the CBD and the rest of the island is excellent. However, you're essentially surrounded by office buildings, which some of us might not prefer as you can't really differentiate between work and play. For facilities and quality, CDL is a reputable developer and this will be an iconic project that is 45 stories high, but the land plot is on the smaller side, so it's unlikely to fit a tennis court. In terms of demand versus supply, freehold residential projects in the CBD is rare, so it does give you that scarcity premium. But historically, demand in this segment has been somewhat weak, especially for own-stay buyers. Coming to pricing, we don't have the exact numbers yet, but it's almost certain you'll be paying a premium over the surrounding resale condos at only 2,000 PSF. Taking everything together, I'm only comfortable giving Newport Residences a grading of C6. Now, let's talk about one of the heavy hitters of 2026, River Modern at River Valley. It is developed by Coco Land with 455 units and the expected price is around 3,250 PSF. For location and amenities, this is a prime address in the CCR, plus you have direct sheltered access to the MRT and Great World City Mall with supermarkets, F&B, as well as lifestyle options literally at your doorstep. The only downside I can think of is once you get used to this level of convenience, it might be hard for you to accept any other places in future. On facilities and quality, this is a mixed-use development with full condo facilities and about half of the units will enjoy views of the Singapore River and Kim Seng Park. Based on Gold Coast's past track record of all the moderns, be it Midtown Modern or Lentor Modern, I'm sure River Modern will not disappoint. For demand versus supply, it will attract families looking to be within 1 km of River Valley Primary, as well as aspirational buyers with strong purchasing power. However, there is some risk of slight oversupply given several launches at the same place at the same time. As for pricing, even though it is said to be the highest in the neighborhood, the people who can afford it will likely still pay for it, especially for the river-facing units. All in all, River Modern is a strong offering and I'm going to give it a pretty good grade of A2. Do take note that River Modern will be launching pretty soon in end Feb after CNY. If you like my full analysis for this project, feel free to reach out to me at 94515625 and I'll be happy to discuss further. Next, Sophia Meadows is located in the Mount Sophia Enclave. This is a small boutique project with just 41 units by Sin Tai Hin and the expected average price is about 2,850 PSF. On location and amenities, you are quite centrally located and walkable to Plaza Sing and Dhoby Ghaut MRT. The catch is, walking up and down Mount Sophia every day isn't the easiest, especially for families with kids or elderly parents. With regard to facilities and quality, this is a boutique development by a small developer, so don't have high expectations. In terms of demand versus supply, there isn't strong organic own-stay demand, and historically, price performance for boutique developments in this estate hasn't been impressive. On pricing, you could argue it looks relatively attractive for a CCR address, but it might become a value trap if you can't exit easily in the future. Overall, I'm not a big fan of small developments, so I'm going to assign Sophia Meadows the worst grading of B7. Moving back to the east, we have Rivelle Tampines EC, which is just a short walk to Tampines West MRT. Developed by Simlian, it has 572 units at an estimated average price of 1850 PSF. Looking at location and amenities, this is a rare EC development that is near an MRT station and an upcoming mall. However, I can foresee some buyers not being comfortable with the location due to its close proximity to the industrial estate. On facilities and quality, Simlian is a safe and familiar name, and the project will come with full condo facilities. That said, I don't expect any wow factor in the finishings. It will be functional and standard, just like other Simlian projects. For demand versus supply, the pool of HDB upgraders in the east and northeast is huge, and Rivelle is within 1 km of 𝗵𝗂𝗏𝗃, which is a top primary school in the region. On top of that, there's limited supply in the neighborhood, so your exit strategy is more or less guaranteed. Coming to pricing, Rivelle will benefit from a significant gap versus Pinery Residences next door at around 24xx PSF. However, given the relatively high PSF and hence price quantum for ECs, buyers might find themselves having to fork out more down payment due to the MSR loan limitation. Putting everything into perspective, Rivelle Tampines is still a strong EC play which will likely sell out, and I'm giving it the grading of A2. Right opposite Rivelle EC, we've got Pinery Residences, a mixed development right next to Tampines West MRT. It's developed by 𝗿𝗵𝗃𝗯𝗀𝗏 with 588 units, and the expected price is about 2450 PSF. On location and amenities, Pinery is even more convenient as the MRT and an integrated mall is literally at your doorstep. The trade-off is you are still in Tampines, so commuting to town will still naturally take longer compared to more central locations. In terms of facilities and quality, 𝗿𝗵𝗃𝗯𝗀𝗏 are reliable developers and you get full condo facilities, but again, I don't expect finishings to stand out significantly. For demand versus supply, similar to Rivelle, you'll be tapping on a large pool of HDB upgraders from the east and northeast. With 𝗵𝗂𝗏𝗏s within 1 km and limited supply in the area, it all bodes well for future resale value. On pricing, my biggest concern is Pinery Residences' huge premium over Rivelle EC with a significant price gap of about 600 PSF. Of course, we have to bear in mind that Pinery Residences is a mixed-use private development, while Rivelle is an executive condo, so they are not really apple to apple. In addition, owners of Pinery will be able to exit much earlier when it obtains TOP after 4 years, while owners of Rivelle will have to wait another 5 years for its MOP. Overall, I still find Pinery reasonably attractive, hence I'm giving it a grading of B3. Now, heading over to the other end of Singapore, we got the first private condo in the new town of Tengah, right next to the upcoming Hong Kah MRT. It's a large 860-unit project by Hong Leong and 𝗁𝗂𝗏 with an estimated average price of around 2,100 PSF. On location and amenities, being beside Hong Kah MRT is a plus, as it's just 4 stops to Boon Lay MRT, where you'll find almost everything you need at Jurong Point. However, honestly, Tengah is still far from anywhere else. For facilities and quality, both developers have solid track records, so quality should be reliable, although some stacks will face the expressway, which might be less desirable. In terms of demand versus supply, the upside is huge. There's a massive pool of HDB upgraders from the countless BTO estates in Tengah and Bukit Batok West. Being the very first condo in Tengah also gives it a clear first mover advantage when future land plots are being sold at a higher price, which have happened before when Sengkang and Punggol were new towns. However, it's not within 1 km of ACS Primary, so you don't get that bonus branded school factor. On pricing, it's likely going to be one of the cheapest private condos going forward, with minimal price gap versus Novo Place and Auto Place ECs that were launched recently and already fully sold. Taking all that into account, I feel this project will be a dark horse which deserves a grading of A2. I'll likely be doing a full review on Pinery Residences versus Tengah Garden in the Battle of the East versus West. Remember to subscribe to my channel so that you can be one of the first few to catch my analysis. A number of my YouTube viewers have also reached out to me in person, and I'm glad I was able to advise them. So if you also have burning questions, don't be shy. Feel free to contact me on WhatsApp at 94515625 and I'll be happy to advise further. Alright, back to the video. Next up, we have Media Circle Parcel A in the One North Precinct. This is a 327-unit project by Qingjian Realty with an expected price of about 2,550 PSF in the RCR. Starting with location and amenities, it offers a peaceful, low-density environment with both shuttle and public buses connecting you to One North and Buona Vista MRT, but it's not exactly within a short walking distance to the MRT itself. For facilities and quality, Qingjian has a decent track record, but this is a smaller development, so you might not be getting the full suite of condo facilities. On demand versus supply, there's limited private residential supply in One North, which should help support pricing and rental demand, even though you're not within 1 km of any top-tier branded schools. From a pricing standpoint, this looks very attractive for an RCR launch. It's even cheaper than some OCR projects that I'll share in the very next slide, which gives you very strong downside protection. There are also 2 more plots of land on the reserve list, which when triggered should help to pull up the existing prices too. Considering all this, I think Media Circle Parcel A offers a good risk-reward profile, even though it's not super convenient, and hence I'm assigning it a grading of B3. Moving to the East Coast, the next project will be another highly anticipated launch in the Bayshore area. It's a 518 unit development by 𝗃𝗵𝗃𝗃 with a staggering price tag of around 2,800 PSF in the OCR. On location and amenities, it's fairly convenient with direct access to the MRT and just one stop away from the future Bedok South Mall. It's also a highly sought after location for buyers who like to enjoy the laid-back East Coast vibes. However, there's currently a lack of basic amenities immediately around the site, and there's no direct access to the East Coast Park. You likely have to go to exit 2 of Bayshore MRT, walk along the perimeter of Costa del Sol to access the underpass over here. For facilities and quality, 𝗃𝗵𝗃𝗃 has a decent track record with popular developments like Park Clementes and Copper and Newton, but Bayshore will be a mid-sized project on a relatively smaller plot of land, so the communal spaces may feel more compact. In terms of demand versus supply, I expect strong interest simply because of its proximity to MRT, the East Coast Park, and the availability of sea view units. Being within 1 km of Temasek Primary also adds to its appeal. The main sticking point to me is pricing. It's extremely high for an OCR project and even higher versus some RCR launches as we have seen earlier. As such, I'm only going to give it an average grading of B4. Coming to the northern part of Singapore, we have the Lentor Gardens site. This is a 502 unit project by Kingsford with an expected price of about 2,400 PSF in the OCR. Looking at location and amenities first, it's within walking distance to Lentor MRT and Lentor Modern Mall, so the day-to-day convenience is decent, although amongst all the Lentor plots, this is actually one of the furthest away from the station. On facilities and quality, it will likely come with full condo facilities, but Kingsford doesn't have the best reputation in the market, so buyers may have to be a bit more cautious. In terms of demand versus supply, my key concern is the oversupply, with a total of 8 residential plots clustered in the same neighborhood, and this project is also not within 1 km of CHIJ St. Nick's. For pricing, the developer will probably position it slightly below the resale prices of Lentor Modern, which are around 24xx PSF to attract buyers, but I'd rather go for Lentor Modern, which is a lot more convenient, better finishing, and ready to move in. Considering the above, unfortunately, I'm only going to give Lentor Gardens a grading of C5. Next up, we have the mother of all launches in 2026, and it is none other than the redevelopment of Thomson View. This is a massive project by 𝗂𝗋𝗋 and Capital Land with 1,268 units and an expected average price of 2,800 PSF in the RCR. On location and amenities, the site is excellent. It's right next to Upper Thomson MRT, directly opposite Thomson Plaza with supermarket and shops, surrounded by popular eateries and cafes, and close to nature spots like 𝗵𝗵𝗄𝗃. For facilities and quality, both developers are reputable with strong track record. On top of that, due to the huge land plot, this means that there'll be plenty of room for extensive facilities and large landscaping. By the way, I already have the site plan for this project and it looks amazing. If you'd like to have a sneak peek before the rest, feel free to contact me on WhatsApp at 94515625 for more details. For demand versus supply, it's within 1 km of Itong School and will attract both HDB and condo upgraders from the north and northeast, which are strong and evergreen factors for your future exit strategy. On pricing, I feel it's reasonable for an RCR project with this caliber, though it will still look slightly expensive compared to some of the surrounding resale condos. Overall, I think this is one of the launches you don't want to miss, and hence I'm giving Thomson View a top tier grading of A1. If Thomson View caught your attention, I'll be happy to explain why I personally bought into this area and what I love about this estate. You also need to start thinking about unit selection. Given that this is a massive project, there will be different stacks with different facing, each with its own pros and cons. Some units will come with an amazing nature reserve view, but accompanied by the afternoon sun. Some will even come with the mouth-watering Merritry view, while some will be facing the opposite development head-on. In addition, different stacks will come with different pricing, which will only be released on the actual booking day 30 minutes before your turn to book the unit. With so much information to digest in a short span of time, it is very important to go in with a proper game plan and with someone who is experienced enough to analyze clearly under pressure. So if you'd like to be well prepared before the launch, feel free to reach out to me at 94515625 and I'll be happy to advise further. Coming back to the CCR, we have the Dunearn Road project near 6th Avenue and the future Turf City MRT. This is a 380 unit development by Frasers and 𝗃𝗶𝗀𝗃 with an expected price of around 3,100 PSF. For location and amenities, this is a prime address and you are within walking distance to not one but two MRT stations. The flip side is that there are no immediate amenities right at your doorstep, and this project fronts busy Dunearn Road, so noise and traffic may be a concern. On facilities and quality, both developers are decent and reliable, but the land plot is relatively small, so there may not be a full range of condo facilities. Looking at demand versus supply, there's limited new supply in this stretch, and the project sits within 1 km of MGS and along the broader education belt. In addition, it will enjoy the first mover advantage ahead of the Turf City redevelopment, which will reshape the area. For pricing, at 3,100 PSF, this will likely set a new benchmark. The saving grace is the next land plot right beside it is already open for tender and will likely help to support prices in the area. Taking all factors into account, I'm giving the Dunearn Road project a grading of B4. Next, we head to Holland Link nearby, which is near the Holland Green GCB enclave. This is a 230 unit project by Simland with an expected launch price of 3,100 PSF as well. On location and amenities, you are in a low density area with close proximity to nature and surrounded by landed and GCB homes, which gives you a very exclusive feel. However, you are quite deep in and not near any MRT stations or amenities. The site is also next to a columbarium, which some buyers may find off-putting. For facilities and quality, Simland is a reputable developer, but it's a small land plot, so you are unlikely to get full-fledged condo facilities. In terms of demand versus supply, this will attract a very niche pool of buyers, such as retirees or children who want to live near parents in the surrounding landed estates. So someone like me probably wouldn't be able to appreciate. On pricing, there is some form of first mover advantage as there are a few more residential plots already zoned in the master plan, but it's also pushing a new benchmark in the area. Overall, because of its niche appeal and constraints, I'm assigning Holland Link a grading of C5. Going back to the west, we have the Lakeside Drive project right beside Lakeside MRT. This is a 570 unit development by CDL with an anticipated price of about 2,500 PSF. Our location and amenities is very convenient. We have the MRT at your doorstep and a hawker center plus coffee shops within a short walk, so daily needs are easily covered. The flip side is, it's still lakeside, so traveling to town will naturally be a bit longer compared to more central locations. For facilities and quality, CDL is a reputable developer, but the land plot is relatively small, so you probably won't get full facilities. In terms of demand versus supply, there isn't much competing supply within 1 km of Rulang Primary, and the project should also benefit from the Jurong Lake District transformation plans, which will be a key driver for capital appreciation. On pricing, it's not exactly cheap for Lakeside and in fact looks borderline high versus surrounding resale options, but the convenience and transformation can help to justify the premium for some buyers. Overall, I'm comfortable giving Lakeside Drive a grading of B3. Finally, we have Chuan Grove near Lorong Chuan MRT. This is a sizable 1055 unit development by Sing Holdings with an expected price of about 2,800 PSF in the OCR. On location and amenities, you do have some amenities at New Tech Park, though for a full suite of F&B and retail options, most residents will likely still head over to Next at Serangoon. For facilities and quality, the amalgamation of two land plots secured by the same developer allows for more well-rounded facilities, but this is still subject to approval from the authorities. However, the developer has limited experience handling such a big-scale project, so execution is something to watch. In terms of demand versus supply, I expect it to be well received because of the central location and connectivity, but do take note that both Chuan Park and Chuan Grove together will inject close to 2,000 units into this small precinct, which can weigh on resale competition. On pricing, similar to Bayshore, is extremely high for an OCR address, although you can argue that this is already at the fringe of RCR, so the pricing might still make sense. Balancing the pros and cons, I'm going to give Chuan Grove a grading of B4. And with that, this is the summary of all the rankings we went through earlier. Let me know in the comments below if you agree or disagree with my evaluation. If you are considering any of these 2026 launches and you want a more personalized breakdown based on your budget, timeline and risk profile, feel free to reach out to me at 94515625 and I'll be happy to help you narrow down to a few solid options. Once again, I'm Sean and I'll see you soon.